Welcome to the Game Grind. I'm your host, King Crusoe. You can call me KC, and today I was initially planning to make this discussion basically the beginning of a live stream to happen today instead of being its own standalone video, and that live stream was in fact going to be the first one for the next game that I'm going to be talking about for the purposes of this video, but I realized that I'm a little bit behind on some things at the moment, most notably being video production. While I was waiting for my lava lamps to get in a position where I could record a couple of quick videos here, and look relatively nice in the background, I've been working on some video production stuff right now. I have several videos that I need to finish working on over the course of this weekend in order to, deal with a trip that I'm also going to be taking next weekend, which would cut into my ability to live stream next weekend. And so between the video production thing, the trip that I'm taking next weekend, and the fact that if I started the next stream game today and just did a couple hours of it and then didn't continue again for a couple weeks, that would be perhaps just a little bit strange. But so that's the reason why this is a video instead of the start of the next stream, and also the fact that this topic makes a little bit more sense for a standalone video rather than the beginning of a live stream. Between all those things, it just made more sense to do this way. So let's stop beating around the bush. You saw the thumbnail, you already know what I'm going to be talking about if you happened to click on the video and if you happen to be watching right now. So the announcement, my next two live stream games are going to be the Last of Us games. Although not going to be playing them in the order you might expect, I will actually be playing The Last of Us 2 starting on May 16th, so here in a couple of weekends, and then continually moving forward on Saturdays is the plan to do my live streams. So in 2 weeks I will begin my third complete playthrough of The Last of Us Part 2. The reason why I'm doing this is because I played the game a couple of times back in late 2024, as a means to revitalize a particular review series that I meant to revitalize and have been working on in the meantime, but it's a big project. But back when I played The Last of Us 2, I took a ton of notes for that game, but one of my core arguments amidst all those notes that I was taking was basically that I thought the chronology is pretty bad in the game. I have some other issues with it overall that are better left out of this video's topic for the sake of, brevity and all that stuff, but I basically argued that, doing the Seattle portion of The Last of Us Part 2 day by day rather than character by character would be an intrinsically better structure for the game. And what do you know, in mid-2025 or so, Naughty Dog added the chronological mode to the game, and I actually meant to do this kind of thing, basically play through the game again in the chronological mode, way back when it happened. I just didn't happen to have time. 2025, I didn't really have time for much of anything for the most part. I was just too busy with some other things going on. But now I do have to play the game again to see if I was right about my assertion of the chronological order type of thing. So I figured that live streaming the game would be the easiest way to actually get myself to play the game again. So that is going to be the purpose of the playthrough. Bonus points for this live stream as well is that I actually just finished playing Ghost of Yotei on the channel recently, coming right off the heels of Ghost of Yotei, The Last of Us Part 2, these two both being very heavily laden with the revenge theme. The irony is pretty funny to me. I streamed Yotei through February and March, and my review for that, it was going to come out on Wednesday, but I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to actually have time to finish that video, so that might not come until a couple weeks after that. We'll see. But in either case, that review is going to be coming out, somewhere around the same time period that I start my stream of this game, so that'll be interesting to compare them back to back on the revenge front, because that's no small part of what my talking about that game and the review is going to be, and no small part of my commentary after I finished the game. So that's that. On May 16th, I'll basically anticipate doing approximately 4 hours of stream, give or take. I think that it will take me about 6 or 7 streams to get through The Last of Us Part 2. If I have time after completing the game at the end of June, like if there's another Saturday or two in June, I might consider playing the No Return, sort of, is it roguelike game mode? Is that technically what it's considered. You know, it's the extra bonus game mode to The Last of Us Part 2 in the remastered edition of the game. I also played a lot of No Return back when I played the base game in late 2024, but there have been a couple updates since then, so there's a couple characters actually that I haven't played through as, so some relevant achievements there that I haven't gotten that I might be interested in streaming if applicable. Like I said, if there's a couple weekends at the end of June to do so, I'll play No Return as well, but there's no guarantee that I'll do any No Return stuff, and I'm not entirely sure how interesting that would necessarily be to watch, but we shall see. After I'm done with The Last of Us 2, however, come Independence Day, because that will be the first Saturday of July, I will play The Last of Us Part 1's Left Behind, you know, the DLC for that, but it'll be the first time that I've actually played the Left Behind DLC before playing the base game, so I think that that will be like an interesting reframing of the content for me, considering how many times I've played The Last of Us at this point, and because the DLC is pretty short, I should only need to take one stream, and doing that stream, you know, pretty early on that holiday seems like a pretty decent time to do a pretty short stream, in my opinion. So that's when I'm just going to go ahead and do that, is on Independence Day that Saturday. And then playing The Last of Us Part 1 proper, I will start on the 11th of July, so the week right after that, and I'll play through the base game, The Last of Us Part 1. I have played The Last of Us a ton. I've played it over a dozen times at this point, so I'm very familiar with the game, and, you know, despite my typically slow gaming pace, I can probably get through this playthrough a little bit quicker than I normally would, just on account of how familiar I am with this game compared to most, and because I will be streaming it instead of, like, casually playing it alongside something else, whatever, you know? So I only predict needing a few streams for this. They're all, you know, a handful of hours long in that 4 to 5 hour range. Like I anticipate I should be done with The Last of Us, even including its DLC, probably by the end of July. So those are my next two live stream games, The Last of Us Parts 1 and 2, and I plan for these to take me until the end of July to get through in the stream schedule, and that fits pretty well for my timing. And in case anybody's wondering why I'm playing Part 1 after the sequel, it's because, you know, I have a bigger reason to be playing the sequel again, and that's for video content related stuff, and the other reason is because The Last of Us Part 1 is a lot less miserable of an ending note to end on, and so I wanted to end off for my sanity. I want to end this series of Last of Us streams on a relatively high note, and because I just love The Last of Us a ton, and, you know, streaming that after Part 2 will be just kind of nice. So yeah, that is basically the purpose of today's video. That is the topic. I will have this section here at the end basically saying what comes after The Last of Us. I'm not 100% sure, and this part of the video is going to be pretty rambly. It's a lot of hypotheticals. It's a lot of I'm really not sure what I'm going to do, because at this point in time in my life, my gaming time is extremely limited, and on top of that, you know, the amount of time for video production is more limited than it was as well. So between those two factors kind of combining, I'm just trying to decide what kind of focus I want to do for live streams, because I do still want to do live streams pretty regularly, but I don't know what type of games I want to play for them, you know, whether I want those to be more long-term casual games on stream, or the other option, which is to play, you know, some shorter games, or to continue playing, you know, relatively limited games, or to maybe get on top of some games that are way too long that I might otherwise never end up justifying spending the time on actually getting to, just on account of the amount of hours they would take, and just playing them on stream, because that's a way to justify playing them in my head, is to do them for that format. Like I said, I'm not entirely sure. There's an argument that can be made either way. If anybody is watching this video and cares, let me know what your preference might be in the comments below. I might make some sort of poll or like a quiz on this video. I don't know how quizzes and YouTube videos work. I've seen that they exist. I've not actually tried one, so I might test one out here. There's technically no correct answer here, even though I'm pretty sure I know what I'm going to do next. But just like, give me a approximation of what kind of category you would prefer to see, like long-term casual games that like don't necessarily have an endpoint to just kind of hang out, if you would prefer that, or longer games that I may never have time to play otherwise, more limited games that are perhaps part of franchises that are just a little bit too long to rely on using Let's Plays to get through them in any kind of timely manner. Or another option that I'm thinking of, kind of along the same veins of these Last of Us playthroughs here, is to just continue doing some replays of some games that I already know that I really like and that I've wanted to replay and want an excuse to play again. If those four categories, what would be your preference? Some example titles just in any of these cases for long-term games that I'm considering just to hang out. Star Wars The Old Republic, I've been wanting to get through some of those campaign storylines. I already talked about earlier this year how I wanted to make some sort of casual stream series where I just played that, so there's a chance that I decide to just do that. I love the Remnant games. Both Remnant from the Ashes and Remnant 2 are amongst my favorite games of all time, and I haven't played Remnant 2 somehow in over a year and a half at this point, and would like to play more, and just playing that casually seems like a pretty fun time to me. So there's games like that I would like to try. For some long games that I may never otherwise make time for, there are things like Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, which I played no small amount of at one point in time, but I just never ended up getting back to because of time-related reasons, so I could stream something like that. Red Dead Redemption 2, which everybody says is incredible and that I'm sure I would really enjoy for story reasons, but I might not ever actually, have the time to play it. Witcher 3 is kind of a similar thing there. The Elder Scrolls games, I might never give myself the opportunity to play just because of how long they could take me, the way that I play games. For some more limited games, but part of bigger franchises, I'm considering things like Assassin's Creed, playing some more of those, especially the Ezio trilogy, because I discovered that I own those, and going back to classic AC seems like something that could be pretty fun. I'm going to continue to do Final Fantasy stuff in Let's Play related things, but I think there might come a time when I want to do those in a live stream context instead of a Let's Play, just as those games continue, they start to get longer, and the longer a game is, the less that I want to Let's Play it in my current Let's Play format, which is like an episode a week, basically. So as Final Fantasy goes on, I might want to switch those to being stream games, and would also make for playing 11 and 14 possible, because I would not do those in a Let's Play context, absolutely not. So that kind of thing. There's ways to play a lot of Legend of Zelda games that I've never played before outside of Breath of the Wild and then starting Tears of the Kingdom, so that's a series that I think people could get a lot of fun out of, but I wonder if those might be better in a Let's Play context, not entirely sure. Of course, the Souls games and other Souls-like could be a ton of fun to do live if that's something that people would enjoy. I know the Souls audience is super, passionate, and they really get behind creators who do that kind of thing, so that might be something that I consider doing live, is just playing some of those games. Elden Ring is kind of an example of a game that's too long that I might otherwise never get back to, because I played 60 hours of that back when it came out, and then work got in the way and I had to drop it for like a month. And my problem with Souls games is that if I have to stop playing them for any more than a couple of weeks at a time or something like that, I wind up never being able to pick it back up, because just rewiring my brain to the control scheme and stuff like that just becomes too difficult. It's like the relearning curve, so to speak, is too high, and so I have to like restart. So like Elden Ring, I could potentially play on stream and restart that and actually finish the game. That might be something worth trying. I'm not entirely sure. So whatever your preferences are in those lines. As far as like games to replay that I want to do in general, these are things that I'll definitely really highly consider doing, kind of along the lines of The Last of Us here, just because I really enjoy them. The Dad of War games, God of War 2018 and Ragnarok are some of my favorite games. I would also really love to replay those, especially since I never played the Valhalla update to Ragnarok, and I was waiting to replay that game before I actually played that update, so I want an excuse to replay those games. streaming could be an excuse to do those. I've wanted to replay Final Fantasy 16 for a while on the Final Fantasy mode so that I could get the platinum for the game and also play the 2 DLC because I haven't played those yet. So stream might be a good way to do that. I'd love to replay Expedition 33 already, especially since I haven't gotten to Verso's drafts yet. And so that might be something to re-experience live. I don't know. I'm sorry that this section is so, just swamped with a bunch of random stuff. I'm just loading your brains with a whole bunch of things. But, there's just a lot of things that I'm considering here. At the end of the day, I'm not entirely sure what to do with the live streams moving forward after I'm done with The Last of Us for a couple of reasons. And one of those is the fact that I'm not entirely sure what to do with Let's Plays anymore at this point, because I think the 1 episode a week format isn't necessarily the best for that kind of a thing. And honestly, I just don't really have time to do the whole Let's Play thing because I have to record and then edit those, whereas live streams I can just take a day on the weekend, just stream for a few hours, and then I don't basically have to think about it again. So I would like to focus a little bit more of my gaming free time on weekends anyway to live streaming instead of trying to do things as Let's Plays. For the purposes of this video, I will say that it's most likely after I get through The Last of Us 1 and 2, I'll probably just chill and play Remnant 2 for a little while after that, just because I want to play that game again, and I can, kind of decide over the next couple of months what I do with future stream stuff, but we'll see what I end up doing. I'm sure I'll come to a solution at some point, but it's most likely that I'll do one of those long-term games or some more replays through the rest of the year while I kind of figure it out, and while I figure out what I do with live stream stuff. But that's basically going to be the whole end of this video. I think I'm going to do another video. Frankly, this will probably be what happens on Wednesday, the 6th, is I'm going to do another video where I let you guys vote on my next Let's Play game, the one that happens after BioShock 2 finishes posting. And I'm thinking that probably like next year, 2027, I'll probably I don't know. I might discontinue doing Let's Plays in favor of doing, live stream Let's Play stuff instead. So, just vote on whatever my next Let's Play game is in the meantime, because I still have yet to figure out what that's actually going to be. In either case, thank you for watching this travesty of a video. I've been your host, King Crusoe. You can call me KC, and I hope to see you guys in the next video, whatever it may be.